Good evening. It's April 11th at, I don't know, late at night, April 11th, 2022. I'm going to be talking tonight about the LiveWire SPAC. LiveWire is currently in a quiet period pre-IPO. The quiet period will be over June 30th, and so until then we can't get direct information from LiveWire as to exactly what they're doing, what their plans are for the IPO. But I think by doing a what I would call a forensic audit or a forensic investigation, we can figure out what's going to be happening and position ourselves well for the future and the stock and get an idea of where they're going. For the investigation, we're going to review Jochen Zeitz books, writings, and interviews. We're going to look at LinkedIn profiles of LiveWire staff people, current and former. We are going to look at unannounced changes to the LiveWire website that have happened just in the last few days and review currently available technologies and how they might influence the LiveWire business plan. So what we need to start with is we need to start with mission statements and core values for companies that Jochen Zeitz has run in the past. Now, what the idea has been is that if he's done something in the past that has worked, typically he's going to use the same formula in the future. Now, you're at a disadvantage if you haven't seen my last video. It was on a LiveWire trip from Los Angeles to San Francisco, because in that trip I reveal that I think Mr. Zeitz has been borderline dishonest in stating the LiveWire mission statement. But what I want to do first is I want to set the pattern for what he's done in the past and project into the future. So Puma is the company that he turned around in the 1990s. Quite a story. But anyway, now they have a mission statement to be the fastest sports brand in the world. And then their pillars, or their the way they're going to get there, is be brave, confident, determined, and joyful. Those are their four pillars. Now, when Mr. Zeitz was running Puma, if you look on page 68, he describes exactly what he did. This is the manager and the monk. He describes exactly what he did. And basically, the formula was fairness, honesty, positive, and creativity. So that's what he did at that point. And then at Harley-Davidson, when he came in as president in 2020, he set the mission statement as more than building machines. We stand for timeless pursuit of adventure, and then freedom for the soul. Now he's got 10 tenets here to run the company by. They're communication, agility, impact, simplicity, speed, culture, courage, judgment, focus, and lean. So that's what Harley-Davidson's stated mission is for 2021 to 2025. Now, in the case of Tesla, which would also be doing mission statements, you can see their mission statement is quite a bit different. They're saying to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energies. That's Elon Musk at Tesla. Now, I want to point something out about Elon, is that he promotes his mission statement above everything else, even the products that he sells. Now, this is a video from the rollout of the Model 3. So this is the biggest product day rollout that Tesla has ever had. And if you look at it, oops, let me get it back to get it to play for you. Here we go. If we fast forward to 1 minute in, that's where he gets introduced and all this stuff. So Elon's being introduced, and this is what he has to say. Hope you can hear that okay.
All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the Model 3 unveil. We have an amazing product to show you tonight. I think you're going to be blown away. But I want to start talking. Just preface this by talking about why are we doing this? Why is Tesla? Why does Tesla exist? Why are we making electric cars? Why does it matter? It's because it's very important to accelerate the transition to sustainable transport. It really, really,
Okay, now,
really is.
I'd like to point out, at this point, before
This is
talking
really
about the Model
important for the
3,
future of the world.
Elon talks for 2.5
We
minutes
have record high
about
CO2 levels.
CO2 and
We
carbon and
recently passed over
sustainability. So
403
obviously,
parts per million of
this
CO2
is a very, very important thing for him in terms of what he believes and what his mission is. He believes in the mission so strongly, and it's such a big deal that it's actually a bigger deal than the rollout of the Model 3. Now, I had the opportunity to tour the Tesla manufacturing plant in Fremont, California, and I can tell you, when you walk in the front door, he's got this, sustainable energy thing on over every doorway. So everywhere you go at Tesla, that mission is out there, and it's clear that it's basically accelerating the move to sustainable energy. So it's a big deal. He's not talking about electric cars. He's talking about a mission statement to save the planet, basically. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about what LiveWire's publicly articulated mission statement is. Now, this is the mission statement that is on their website. And if you want to know what LiveWire's mission statement is, you can Google it, whatever, and this is what comes up. It says to be the most desirable electric motorcycle brand in the world, leading the electrification of the sport. Now, there's even videos on LiveWire's website where Mr. Zeitz is saying that. So that's what the party line is. That's what the mission statement is. And I have to say, it's a terrible mission statement, and certainly nothing as good as Tesla's. But then when we read the book, The Manager and the Monk by Mr. Zeitz, we find out that the reality is that his mission in life, or the most important thing for him in his lifelong mission, is a journey to a safe and sustainable place. Now, he doesn't say journey, he says create a safe and sustainable place. But the idea is that in his heart, this is what seems to be the driving force. And he talked about this with me when I was at the LiveWire launch in Malibu, California. He's formed a company, or he's co-founded an organization called the B Team, which has Plan B, which is a very comprehensive system of transitioning large companies to a sustainable future. So, I mean, this is a big deal for him. So what we're going to do is, for the purpose of reviewing this business plan, we're going to say that this is not the mission statement for LiveWire, that the real mission statement is this. And we're going to base our projections on what LiveWire is going to do on this statement, because we believe, or I believe, that a journey to a safe and sustainable place is LiveWire's true mission. Now, if that is the true mission, the next thing we have to do is we have to say, well, what are the tenets going to be, or what's the roadmap? How are we going to get to that mission? Now, because Mr. Zeitz is basically Phaedrus, he thinks of everything and manages things with the idea of Phaedrus, or the chariot allegory, where you have different things, black and white, in this case a black and white horse. What you do is you assign metaphors to the horse, or to the horses. You set a goal and you push the company towards that goal. So after looking at the bike carefully, and I'm going to come back to how I came up with these four, was actually, these four are pretty much written on the bike. But what the four tenets are, or the four things that are going to drive LiveWire to their mission of a journey to a safe and sustainable place, is art, technology, quality, and gumption. Okay, gumption is something that Mr. Zeitz spoke quite a bit about in his book. But anyway, the most important thing by far is art. And the reason that art is important is because it's what's inside your head. It's your love, it's your joy, it's your passion, it's everything. Now, this guy, who I've never met, his name is Ben McGinley. He is the guy as far as I can tell, that designed the look and feel of the LiveWire motorcycle. Now, the guy is an absolute genius. Saying that this guy is a designer is like saying Picasso was a painter. I mean, the bike is gorgeous, but what I want to do is I want to play a little bit of this video so you can get an idea of what was going through his head when he was designing this bike. Here, let me start this video.
Engineer came in on my first day and set a battery pack and 2 wheels in 3rd scale on my desk. It's like, what's this gonna be? My name is Ben McGinley, and I'm the manager of styling and design focused on electric vehicles at Harley Davidson
Inside the
Motor
mind.
Company. Did a bunch of model kits as a kid. I'd usually kind of do them wrong though, and like usually at some point I'd kind of get bored with the instructions partway through and sort of do it my own way. Like as a kid, I would draw like the insides of engines
He's
or
drawing
like a
by
cross
hand.
section of a car. The passion from that is what drew me to motorcycles. I ended up going to school at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. I was able to meet the people at the Harley Davidson Design Studio, and that's how I ended up here. I've got a bunch of bikes, mostly old stuff. I got 4 bikes that run right now. I really need a bigger garage. I think that experience, like
watch
working
what's
on old
coming up.
stuff
Carefully
and being a
watch.
little bit mechanical really does help feed the work. Clay is one of my favorite parts of
Watch
our
this
process,
clay.
where you really get to like feel and
Look at
interact
that.
with the
He-
surfaces with
he
your own
carved
hands.
out this
and
bike with
like
his
it brings
bare
another
hands.
dimension to the product that wouldn't have if we went like straight to digital to production. As a designer, you're always kind of a sponge, sort of trying to look for things to be inspired from all over the place, whether
Look at
it's
that, looking
architecture
for
and a
things
little
to
bit of
be
an
inspired
architecture nerd.
from.
We go to a lot of different motorcycle shows, see what people are doing. Part of what's really challenging and really rewarding about designing motorcycles is when you have to take a lot of these kind of blue sky ideas and then start working with an engineering team and start coming up with something that's producible and it's going to perform. Where it all comes together is part of what makes it so interesting. That's why it's so exciting to do motorcycles for me.
Is that unbelievable? Anyway, what I want to do now is I want to talk specifically about what the design of this bike is and what Ben actually pulled off. Now, I refer to this bike as a fusion of art, technology, and purpose. Art is the number one. Now, these 4 tenets that I got, the art, technology, quality, and gumption, I want to show you where those came from. When you're looking at a piece of art, you have to think about a lot of things. You kind of sit back, you look at the bike, and then you decide what's coming out at you. Now, the first thing that comes out at me when I look at this bike is right here. Now, this is a symbol. If you read Carl Jung, the symbol is called a mandala, and a lot of pieces of art have it. Now, to give you an example, this is off the internet. This is a mandala. It's a piece of art that you can buy on the internet, and basically it's a design from Tibet. So what the deal is this thing looks like this. Okay, now the way that mandalas work is they represent the mind, and this one actually represents infinity. And what happens is these markings on the mandala, which is where the screws screw into it, each one has a meaning. Okay, so I looked at this carefully and I thought about it, and I figured out that the meaning was art, technology, quality, and gumption. Now, you'll also notice that these two are hooked together by this apparatus for the rear passenger foot peg. So the fact that these 2 screws are anchored by that bracket, that means that the top one is art and the bottom one is technology. Okay, so you can even figure out what each one means. Now, the other interesting thing is you can't see it too much, but when you see the actual bike behind the screw at the bottom, there's another hidden screw behind the technology screw. So that means that there's a hidden technology, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But anyway, that's kind of what the bike is what the art is messaging to me when I look at it. And another thing I want to point out is another very interesting thing about the bike is on the steering head, it has 3 screws. It's kind of hard to see in this picture, but when you see the bike, they really stand out. And I was trying to figure out what those 3 screws mean, and I finally figured out that the core principles of the plan, or of the B team and Plan B, their overriding principles are unity, creativity, and fairness. So what this bike says to me is you have down here the art, the technology, the quality, the gumption being guided or directed by a unity, a creativity, and a fairness. So those are kind of how you can get messages from the bike. There's a bunch more in here. Like one of the things that I noticed, if you go to the Harley-Davidson website, they have a big thing about their principles and values and everything. This is the part of their mission for Harley-Davidson. You can see there that they have 10 leadership principles: communication, impact, simplicity, focus, lean. Okay, these are the things that they have. You'll also notice that on the wheels here, you've got 10 spokes, both in the front and rear wheels. Now, most Harleys don't have 10 spokes, so to me, what that's talking about is we have an electrical motorcycle with the 4 principles I talked about being guided by the Plan B model, which is unity, creativity, and fairness, and it's riding on the Harley-Davidson leadership principles. So that's kind of how you can get messages. Now, the other thing I want to point out is that Mr. Zeitz has read a lot of books, and he reads books, he talks about the books that he reads and the books that he writes, and he reads a lot of Carl Jung. And we've talked about Carl Jung in the last video, but anyway, Carl Jung is most famous for a book he wrote called Synchronicity. And synchronicity, he actually invented the word. And what it is, if you don't want to read the whole book, I'll give it to you in one line. What it is that if there is an extreme coincidence, something that is just so coincidental, it's almost unbelievable, what that means is there's probably something underneath. In other words, it's probably pointing to something. It's probably not an extreme coincidence at all. It probably means something. And this is one of the things that Mr. Zeitz talks about in his philosophy in the book, that you're talking about Carl Jung, you're talking about mandalas, you're talking about art. We also know from the last video that Mr. Zeitz is very, very much into art and very much understands what art is saying. So anyway, that's how I came up with the principles that are the foundation for LiveWire. We talked about art. The second one is technology. Now, in this case, the most important part of technology is that it's a change agent. So it takes art and it moves it. Now, you'll notice here this kind of like interlocking blocks. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but technology is the change agent. That's the part that's moving us forward. And of course, quality. Now, quality is very hard to describe. It was the topic of the book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. But I can tell you that everything about the LiveWire just drips with quality. Everything. It's just amazing. Just the flat-out quality of this thing in every way, from the paint to the welds to the handling to the sound to the feel. This thing is quality. Now, I knew there had to be 4 things because there are 4 screws here in the mandala. So the fourth thing turned out to be gumption. Now, gumption is interesting because gumption in Mr. Zeitz's book is actually one of the key things that he looks for when hiring people. So he's interested in people with gumption. Now, what gumption is, if you look in the dictionary, it's shrewd or spirited, initiative or resources or resourcefulness. So, when thinking of the chariot metaphors and Phaedrus and everything else, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is Ben-Hur. And the wheels of the chariot, you get the idea. So what's happening there is that's the conflict of business. That's the assigning of metaphors. to things to try and get an understanding. Now, we have a revised mission statement now. So since we have the revised mission statement, so we no longer want to be the desirable motorcycle. The new mission is to be a journey to a safe and sustainable place. So since we revised the mission, it opens up all kinds of new opportunities for LiveWire that we didn't have before. The first thing that it does allows us to position LiveWire against ICE vehicles for urban transportation. In other words, we're not positioning against motorcycles, we're positioning against urban transportation. Secondly, it allows us to utilize cloud connectivity to reward and distribute carbon offsets. Now, since we want to get to a safe and sustainable future, we want to start to look at things like carbon offsets. So I'm going to be talking to that in a moment. Then we can realign poker runs and charity rides via LiveWire Connect. We're going to talk about how to do that. Create a LiveWire cryptocurrency using miles ridden as proof of ride. Okay. Now, what it is in a regular cryptocurrency, they have what's called proof of work, which shows that you use some electricity to run some hash tables. We're using a similar concept with LiveWire. What we're going to do is we're going to use the fact that the motorcycle moved from one place to the next as proof of ride, because with LiveWire Connect we can prove when and where it happened, and we can prove how much electricity that it used. So instead of proof of work, we're going to have a cryptocurrency using proof of ride. We're going to make that LiveWire coin redeemable with Plan B participation to drive, Plan B participants to drive demand. So what we're going to do is companies that are participating in Mr. Zeit's Plan B are going to be rewarded with the fact that there's going to be a ground-up swell of participants that are going to have cryptocurrency to buy their product. For example, one of the Plan B participants is Tom and Jerry's ice cream. So that would be an example, or Dove soap, or a bunch of other things. And then lastly, transition in additional sources of proof of ride, like even the Staycycle or the Stasic motorcycles they have for kids, and expand the Plan B accordingly. So the idea being is that we're going to feed in more and more cryptocurrency, proof of ride, and we're going to use it to expand the demand for Plan B participating companies. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but all the things we can do, because we've decided that we're not doing motorcycles, we're doing a journey to a safe and sustainable place. So this opens up all kinds of new possibilities for us. Now, the first thing I mentioned was we're going to position LiveWire against urban ICE. Now, this is the deal. The LiveWire motorcycle is the reason everybody doesn't have one right now is because they cost a lot of money. If you drive the cost down, obviously more people are going to buy it. So what we want to do is we want to look at the cost as compared to the most common method of urban transportation and commuting, which would be a car. So the average car and light truck gets 24.9 miles per gallon. Average cost of gas in California right now for regular is $5.77. The average LiveWire miles per kilowatt is 6.046 miles. So that's how far you go on 1 kilowatt. We're going to talk about how we know that in a minute. And then the average cost of electricity is 19 cents a kilowatt hour in California. So that means that the fuel cost is 0.2317 cents per mile for an ICE car and 0.033 cents per mile for LiveWire. So 3 cents a mile for a LiveWire, 23 cents a mile for ICE transportation. Now, the average daily commute in California is 46.88 miles per day, okay? And the LiveWire saves then $46.58 per week, or $201.85 per month. Now, what happens, they have a future forward lease program, which just appeared on the website a few days ago. And if they were to put the Del Mar at $17,000, which is probably about where it's going to be, that's about $215 per month, which means that you're getting your LiveWire for $14 a month. So that's what the real cost is, and that's how we need to look at things. Now, if you look at Tesla, Let's see if I have it here. Okay, I don't know where I put it, but anyway, if you go to the Tesla website, they actually, when you buy or lease the car, they talk about the true price, and it's usually quite a bit lower than the regular price. Just a moment. Okay, here's what I mean. On the Model Y, if you look there, they have what's called the purchase price, which is right there, and then they have a button you click next to it, which is the potential savings. So what happens is the purchase price is $62,000, but if you push the button, the potential savings brings it down to $57,000. So what's happening on the LiveWire example here is the purchase price is $215 per month, and the offset is $201.85 per month. So the motorcycle costs $14 a month, and I believe that that's how it needs to be marketed. So we aren't positioning against electric motorcycles and saying we're the most desirable one. We're saying that we're an alternative to taking your car to work. And if you take this thing to work instead, you're going to save a lot of money. And if you commute more than 46 miles a day, so you commute 100 miles a day, not only will it make your bike payment, it'll make your car payment too. So I mean, we're talking about a substantial savings in money, or a substantial savings by doing it this way. Now, the next thing we're going to do is talk about carbon offsets. Now, the situation is the current LiveWire app, this is a screenshot, you can actually get, it can show you the miles that you drove. You can do it by week, month, day, whatever. It also can show you the kilowatt hours you used. So we're looking at February 2022. We see we did 1,053 miles. This is for Preston's LiveWire, so this is the real deal. And then it shows how much kilowatts we used. We used 153 kilowatt hours, okay? So what you can do is you can, because we know exactly what the motorcycle used, because it has this LiveWire Connect, those are exact numbers. We have a high integrity accounting of the carbon offset at the motorcycle level. Now, every gallon of gasoline translates into 20 pounds of CO2. So every time you burn a gallon of gas, you create 20 pounds of CO2. So Preston's LiveWire ONE saved 846 pounds of CO2 in February. The LiveWire will be the first company to trade and distribute carbon credits to its customers. Now, to give you an idea for it, they're selling carbon credits by the ton. So in California, for example, you can get $31.5 per ton of carbon, okay? So Preston would get $13.23 because he lives in California. So you get $13.23 back for February. If you're in Europe, the European Union is now paying 79 euros per ton. So that's like way more than twice as much as California is paying. So this is something that can work beyond the United States. And in any way, what the idea would be is that at a corporate level, LiveWire would, basically trade in carbon credits and pass those credits on to their customers, because the customers are going to need proof that there was a savings in CO2. So instead of doing carbon offset like planting a tree or something like that, you're going to get a carbon offset by driving your electric vehicle, or a LiveWire in this case. So this again is another benefit we get by changing our mission statement. Next, after the carbon credits, if we get this thing to work here, there we go. We're talking about charity rides. Now, I call it here the LOG, that's the LiveWire Owners Group, but the Hog Owners Group actually does almost 100,000 events worldwide, rides where they raise money for charities. Now, LiveWire Connect allows you to do things beyond just a regular ride, because participation can be tracked on each motorcycle, and the aggregate information can be displayed to all participants. I mean, you can go on a ride with LiveWire Connect, and it's tracking you and everybody else and giving aggregate information on websites or Instagram, whatever, as to how everybody's doing on the ride and where they're at and how they're doing so far in their poker run. The other thing that can be done is you can use fundraising avatars awarded as a bike's touchscreen display as a badge of honor. So in other words, you can use the LiveWire Connect to change the the instrument cluster to display badges of honor for how much that bike has been used to raise money for charities. That's just, let's say, having a badge on your vest. You can put a badge on your motorcycle. Now, one of the main things I think was really can be cool with this new mission statement is we can create LiveWire cryptocurrency. Now, what the process would be is LiveWire would pick a blockchain platform and define the parameters that it wants to trade on, and it would probably be miles traveled, kilowatt hours, something like that. They'd probably use a platform like I don't know, Bitcoin would probably not be a good one. There's dozens of different platforms. But anyway, you have a platform, you integrate an API to interface it with LiveWire Connect, and then you make LiveWire Coin redeemable with Plan B participants to drive demand. So this would be a bottom-up approach. So you have Plan B at the top end doing things to reduce the carbon footprints of big companies in terms of the way they run their business. And then at the bottom end, you have cryptocurrency with value coming in that can be used to purchase products from Plan B companies. Now, long term, you transition in additional sources of proof of ride, like the STASIC, get little kids involved in raising money and doing things. In fact, now instead of selling Girl Scout cookies, the young girl can go out in the backyard and ride her STASIC around and raise money for the Girl Scouts in that way, and expand Plan B. So what this means is we just keep expanding the cryptocurrency demand at the bottom, and we keep using it to stimulate Plan B participation at the top, and prepare for Plan C. Plan C is the plan beyond what we're going to talk about today, but there is another step to take, which is even cooler. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Tesla is spending an enormous amount of time and money trying to use artificial intelligence for full self-driving cars. Okay, that's great. But what LiveWire will do is they will use their computing resources to run artificial intelligence networks to properly manage carbon credits to get us to a sustainable future faster. So I think a little bit better deal. We'll talk about Plan C at some other video if you guys are interested. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Elon Musk. Okay, he's trying to accelerate transition to sustainable energy through cars, solar panels, batteries, and he has a plan to colonize Mars with 1 million people by 2050. Now that's wonderful, and everybody loves Elon Musk. I do too. But the problem with this plan is it's not enough. In other words, we're going to have 1 million people on Mars by 2050, but what about the billions of people that are left behind on Earth? And he's not able to get electric cars, solar panels, and batteries fast enough. You need like 1,000 gigafactories added every year to make it. So he has not got a plan that by itself is going to get us to a point of a sustainable future. Now, Jochen Zeitz, he's taking a little bit different approach. He's got the Plan B at the top, using unity, creativity, and fairness. And what they're doing is they've developed an accounting system so that corporations can get an actual number for how much environmental damage they're doing, and then things in place to fix it. So in my mind, before you can fix anything, you have to be able to measure it. Mr. Zeitz and Plan B is the only one that's measuring anything. So that's very, very important. He's got a top-down strategy with Plan B. Now in LiveWire, what we're talking about a mission statement that changes hearts and minds. In other words, we're trying to get people to get people on the journey to a safe and sustainable future. So Zeitz is doing a top-down and bottoms-up approach. He's using Harley-Davidson from the bottom up. He's using Plan B from the top down. So I believe that is a very good plan. I think long run it will have more impact than Mr. Musk's approach. And the other thing is that the plans can both run in parallel. This doesn't impact anything Elon Musk is doing at all. This is strictly an additive thing. So that's a very good thing to know. Now, the next thing is you have to watch the previous videos and everything, but it's clear to me that Mr. Zeitz is Phaedrus. And you can watch the last video to find out who that is. But in looking at the LiveWire logo, I was looking at that for a while and thinking about it, and I had kind of a epiphany. And that is this guy on the left in the picture here. His name is Joseph Campbell. And you might not have heard of him, but he is the guy that wrote the book called Heroes of a Thousand Faces. When George Lucas read that book in high school, he was so inspired by it that he wrote the Star Wars trilogy, the first one. So this is a very, very smart man. He's written dozens of books. He's an absolute genius, and he studies religions and mythology and all kinds of things. Now, he died now. He died in the late 1980s, and this video I'm going to show you, the short clip, was filmed a few months before he died. And he knew that he was going to die because he had terminal cancer. So after all his research into religions and mythology and everything else, he was at the end of his life, and he was terrified. And he was terrified because he felt that there was no mythology that was taking care of the earth. So he saw the earth being polluted and damaged and all these things, saw the nuclear threat, all kinds of things. And he was concerned that the world religions at the time, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all of those, including all the governments and all the countries and everything, that they were not operating in the cohesive manner necessary to save the planet. So I want you to listen to what he said. This is an interview a few months before he died. He was, it was actually an interview, was a 6-hour series that was on TV, but this was the last moment of that series. I encourage you to go to YouTube. You can watch all of the different videos he did, but this is what he had to say, and it talks about the meaning of the LiveWire logo. Here we go.
You can't predict what a myth is going to be any more than you can predict what you're going to dream tonight. Myths and dreams come from the same place. They come from realizations of some kind that have then to find expression in symbolic form. And the only myth that's going to be worth thinking about in the immediate future is one that's talking about the planet, not this city, not these people, but the planet and everybody on it. That's my main thought for what the future myth is going to be. And what it will have to deal with will be exactly what all myths have dealt with. The maturation of the individual, the gradual, the pedagogical way to follow from dependency through adulthood to maturity and then to the exit, and how to do it. And then how to relate to this society and how to relate this society to the world of nature and the cosmos. That's what the myths have all talked about. That's what this one's got to talk about. But the society that it's got to talk about is the society of the planet. And until that gets going, you don't have anything.
There's that wonderful photograph you have of the Earth seen from space. And it's very small, and at the same time, it's very grand.
You don't see any divisions there of nations or states or anything of the kind. This might be the symbol, really, for the new mythology to come. That is the country that we are going to be celebrating. And those are the people that we are one with.
Okay, now you can play that video back if you'd like, but he kept on using the word planet. I think the word was really world, okay? It's not just the physical planet, it's the world. The other thing is he talked about we're all one, okay? Now, if you look at the LiveWire logo, it's an L and a W for LiveWire. I think that could have that could also have a dual meaning. I think it could also mean live world. And it's interesting that Zeitz named it the LiveWire ONE because one is this O-N-E. It's the symbol for unity and oneness and enlightenment. So anyway, we have all these things going on with LiveWire, where Zeitz is in a position to create a mythology that deals with a journey of safety and sustainability. So anyway, I'm putting that out there. I think that's what Zeitz is really up to. I think that's what LiveWire is really up to. And please leave any comments below. Have a nice evening.